So we're basically here today with Ajeet Khurana. He's angel investor, a business mentor, and a fabulous orator. We couldn't absolutely let him just do a Twitter chat. 140 characters wouldn't do justice to him. So we decided to basically try out a live hangout. So if you're doing this for the first time, if there are any glitches, please bear with us and start shooting your questions right away. Ajeet, over to you.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions which I'm going to rush into. Probably my responses to those questions will stir more questions or new people might join in. Okay, I'm going to give you a short answer and a long answer. The short answer, which is could be seen as incorrect, the short answer is use Blogger. Go to blogger.com and you'll have a blog on blogspot.com. That is one of the easiest ways and pretty well configured ways to do blogging. However, why did I say the short answer might be wrong? The reason is that if you are saying I'm a beginner at blogging, what do I use? Blogger. But are you going to remain a beginner forever? If the answer to that also is yes, then Blogger will continue to do a job for you. However, if you find that as you evolve, you might want more flexibility, more control over your software, the ability to do more things, add more software in the form of plugins, etc. In that scenario, I find that your self-hosted WordPress, which is basically you go to your hosting site, wherever you host, purchase hosting at, and you kind of install the WordPress software. It's a little tougher to do, well, probably a much tougher to do for beginners. However, without any doubt, it can scale up to any level. And you can have the world's biggest blog. You could have 10,000 writers writing at every point of time. Even to that extent, the WordPress platform is seen as being fairly stable. So if you could muster the courage and want to brave the world of technology, probably having your self-hosted WordPress blog would be the way to go. However, going back to the original question, if you are technologically averse or would otherwise not like to get too technical, then yes, I still think that Blogger presents the best platform for beginners. How do I become a professional blogger? How do I become a blogger who does not just post his heart's contents or quips of poetry here and there or share his current breakfast contents, but I want to write stuff that people read, advertisers pay for, and I actually earn money? The question is quite valid. I, without any exaggeration, know well over 2,000 people who run their own blog and make money from it. How much money do they make? Well, some of them make it a couple of dollars per month, and some of them make well over $10,000 per month. But the key to all of that is that you said a moment ago that you are not making any money from your blog. If indeed you are trying to make money and not making money, I think that's quite pathetic. Here's the deal. As a rule of thumb, okay, as a rule of thumb, this is very important because those of you who are substantially overachieving what I'm going to say might feel that you're doing too well, not necessarily, because you could do still better. And those of you who are substantially underachieving the metric I'm going to give you might also get a little worried about whether they're doing something substantially wrong. But as a rule of thumb, your monthly earnings should be equal to, or at least equal to, the number of blog posts you have, that many dollars. So if you have a blog with 20 blog posts, then at the very least, your monthly earning, as in every single month with the same 20 blog posts, you should be earning $20. Which means that if you have a blog with 1,000 blog posts, then you should at least be making $1,000 per month. This is a metric which some people who understand online business will actually be quite averse to. They'll say that, hey, number of blog posts don't matter, it is the traffic that matters, and I agree with all of that. But we have to make a correlation between the effort you have put in to the result that you should expect. In my experience, anything less than $1 a month per blog post, and there is something wrong. Now, you asked me, how do you earn money? Two of the most common methods, one of them you've already listed. If you are accepted into the Google AdSense program, I think it's one of the easiest to implement and fairly decent in terms of payouts. You can do better than that, but those type of programs tend to be very tough to get into. The extremely other point of view in terms of how do you make money online would come from trying to sell products. So let's call them affiliate commission. That means you tie up for affiliate commissions or affiliate programs of various e-commerce retailers such as Amazon.com, though Amazon.com pays very, very little. Okay, but it's very trusted, so people are more likely to buy from there. But anybody else whose products you sell should and would usually be willing to share between 4 and 75%. That actually is the wide range. 4%, which is the lowest slab that Amazon.com tends to have, to 75%, which is a pretty common slab for ClickBank affiliates to come in and earn money. So affiliate income and AdSense income are two of the most common incomes. I personally love AdSense because it's so easy to implement and never needs to be maintained. Also, you have Google on the other hand, so you kind of tend to trust them that, you know, if there has been an earning and they are going to give you a share, then they'll actually give you a share. But going back to my original metric, I think anything under, any earning other under $1 a blog post a month is too little. Right? Of course, you might have expenses, so this might not be a profit. I think you might have to pay writers, or you might have some other expenses, or you might probably be a travel blogger who has to travel to write blog posts. Yeah, so those expenses will be reduced from this. But at the very least, the revenue, the income has to be $1 per blog post per month. By the way, I run a couple of blogs where the income is in the excess of $10 per post per month, and I know others do too. So, especially when the blog becomes very big, as in at least a few hundred posts, this metric should be satisfied. If you have a blog with just 3 posts, then there is a possibility you're earning much more than $3 from it per month. But this is my thumb rule. Now, such slogans usually are a little scary because they are too cliche. But the fact is that those of us who have been in any form of media, you could be a print journalist, or you could be a television producer, or a movie producer, or a blogger, I find that indeed it comes down to content is king. Sure, somebody who is already an established blogger versus you who is just starting out and probably has much better content, that the other established blogger is going to win out in the short run. But in the long run, I think nothing beats, absolutely nothing beats having great content. And why this cliched slogan has become extremely important today is that over the last 12 to 18 months, Google has gone nuts. So anybody who was making a sizable income from Google some time ago, you would find probably crying out and spouting words such as Google Panda, Google Penguin. For those of you who do not know what that means, these are various updates that Google makes to its search algorithm to decide what results come up on the top when somebody searches for something in Google. But what has happened is that Google has actually become smart and has become extremely conscious of the quality of content on the page, right? We who are in the field of search engine optimization had already cried ourselves hoarse. In fact, even right now I'm fairly hoarse, but we had cried ourselves hoarse saying Google only factors in technical characteristics and not content characteristics adequately. But that has changed, and it is continuing to change more and more. So for that purpose, yes, indeed, content is king. Whether design is queen is debatable, especially because design that appeals to me may not appeal to you. However, because people are landing up on blogs often through search engines, in fact, I think that is one of the biggest source of traffic even on blogs, if not on all kinds of websites. I find that whether people find a site to be credible depends upon the look and feel of the website. So to that extent, I think design also is king, but we already have one king, so let's go with the cliche that somebody has just posted on Twitter saying content is king and design is queen. Now this is a very beginner's question. The reason I mentioned that is just a few lines below I can see a fairly advanced question about more evolved blogging platforms than WordPress and Blogger, which is one question I'm going to dodge a little, because anything you try to do to beat a giant often turns out to bite you later. But let me answer the earlier question. I don't understand anything. What do I do? Yeah, I know that's not exactly what you asked. You said I don't understand AdWords or AdSense or SEO. What do I do? Yeah, that's kind of like saying I can't write English, so how do I beat Shakespeare at his job? Yeah, I'm very, very much exaggerating, because SEO, AdWords, AdSense are absolutely not necessary to succeed in blogging. However, these things can help. So instead of trying to demystify the jargon, I'm going to trust that you may know Google, google.com, and you may be able to type in some of these things. I'll just give you like a 30-second rundown. AdWords is a program which is used to advertise your advertisements or to display your advertisements on other websites, including google.com, and get traffic in. AdSense is a program where you display other people's ads on your blogs and thereby hopefully earn money. It's fairly more complex than that, the mechanism of earning, but that's what it's basically. SEO is search engine optimization, which is things that you can do to your website and its content and people linking to it, etc., which makes it more likely for Google to love you more, thereby rank your blog better. But I'm not going to get into the details of these because every one of these is, I'm sure that Ankita is someday going to have a twang out on these specific topics. So let's try to stick to blogging at its core. In my experience, the answer is absolutely no. But since these sort of sessions tend to get recorded, there might very well come a point of time when somebody does that and then I'm eating crow. So don't quote me on that. You know, surprisingly, I find this an extremely important question. Now, I have read somewhere that the best question or questions, if I may stretch it today, are actually going to get samosas from Social Samosa. So far, this question that I just listed is my present nomination to that list. Let's see as time progresses. We have half an hour more. How many more nominations I given? And if there aren't too many more, I'm sure I could twist these Social Samosa people to give samosas to all the people who I nominated. But the question is, hang on, for me blogging is sharing. I want to tell people what I did today. I wrote a poem, I want to publish it online. What are all these nonsensical terms like SEO, AdSense, AdWords that you're throwing at me? I entirely agree with this. In fact, when you go back to figuring out how web logging, the short form of which is blogging, how web logging began at all, or what its predecessor was, which were called online journals. See, basically people wanted to express themselves. Twitter had not taken birth, so 140 characters of my bad English expression, there was no end to that. So there were these things called journals, bulletin boards, and weblogs, where you could go and post whatever you liked, and if somebody had the URL because you shared it with them, through email or otherwise, they could read what you have to write. Now, the blogging part of it became extremely popular. In fact, today, for many people, online activity is not much other than social media, such as Facebook and Twitter, and blogging. To that extent, I personally would rate blogging as social media or social interaction. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that blogging, the genesis of blogging came from people wanting to basically share. Now, what do I want to share? That's my business. Whether you want to read it or not is your business, right? So in light of that, I think it's absolutely perfectly okay for you to know nothing else, absolutely nothing else except how do you post your blog post. A very simple platform such as blogger.com, which is not owned by me, so that's not what I'm promoting it, it's owned by Google itself, should be adequate for you to go, and posting a blog post in Blogger, without too much of customization, is not much tougher or not much different for that matter than posting an email to somebody. So it's that easy. You go to Blogger, you post your thoughts, and it's there for the whole world to see. The reason why people are talking about search engine optimization and various other forms of search engine marketing, blah, 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 online advertising, etc., is because beyond a certain point, people do not find the ability to drive readers to their writing. So for instance, if you are primarily writing for people you know, such as for your relatives, for your immediate family members, for people who went to the same college as you did, and they all know what your URL is, and they're going to visit not because they came in through Google or through Facebook links, or maybe through Facebook links, there is absolutely no need for you to do anything other than posting blog posts. Now, what tends to happen is that in the initial stages, posting blog posts is very exciting. Subsequently, for many of us, expressing oneself is not adequate, and what we have to do is get other people to come and listen to us expressing ourselves. This is where we hope that people who we do not know either should come in and ask us questions, interact with us, read what we write. This is where you want Google to love you, so that when people are searching for relevant keywords on Google, your blog posts also start ranking, right? So that is where all of those relatively more fancier online marketing things come up. But no, you absolutely can and probably should post from the heart, share with people you know or care about. Some of them in turn will share with people that they know or care about, and that is what the essence of blogging is all about. Okay, professional blogging is different, where you are blogging so that you can earn money. If I knew a magic formula where I said, oh, you want to increase the number of loyal blog users, wake up early in the morning, perform a little bit of yoga, drink warm water, yeah, you get the idea. If there were such a prescription, there would be some people who just do nothing else but keep rinsing and repeating that prescription again and again. But Having said that, it is not as if there aren't some pretty well established guidelines. To begin with, we have already discussed the cliche that content is king and design is queen. So that would be your starting point. But there are other things. Now, the important thing is to not try to come up with a one-size-fits-all strategy. In the sense, suppose you have a blog about technology, and what's very interesting is that some of the most successful blogs coming out of India tend to be tech blogs. Now, we can have an entire discussion about why that is so, or is it too easy for Indians, or are we just technologically oriented, are we too nerdy, etc. But that's not the discussion for today. So, what I find is that suppose your blog is on blackberries. If you can, not just give me good content, which is the absolute minimum that I'm saying is required, but also give me timely content. Also give me content which I can rely on, so reliable, authentic content. Also give me content which is written in a way that I can do something with it. What can I do with it? Well, whatever I chose to do. If it was about using the BlackBerry, you might want to give me content about using the BlackBerry. If I'm an investor in the company RIM, which produces the BlackBerry, then maybe that is the content you want to give me. But the fact is that your content should be relevant to me, right? And there are so many dimensions to relevance, some of which I've discussed right now. If you are going to give me something I like, and if you want slightly more advanced techniques than just saying, hey, give me good content, because that is the first point, you can do other stuff. For instance, I have found that integrating my blog content with my personal social accounts, such as on not just Facebook and Twitter, I have achieved a lot of success with something like Quora. For those of you who have not heard of Quora, it's spelled as Quora. Once again, not owned by me. It's a gigantic site. I wish such sites were owned by me, but Quora.com, LinkedIn.com for professional posts, professionally oriented blogs also tends to do very, very well. So I find that social sharings are now increasing. Earlier, they used to be like 1 to 4% of the total traffic that I would get. Now, for some of my blogs, they are turning out to be like 15-20%. Right? So coming from 1% going all the way up to 20% is a substantial move, and this can continue to happen. And note, when the social traffic increased from 1 to 20%, my overall blog traffic has also increased. So in terms of number of visitors, the number has gone up much more than 20 times when I have moved from 1 to 20%. Because the base of which this percentage is being calculated also has increased. So social sharing also, I think, is an extremely important thing to do when you are trying to gain users. Now, social sharing, however, is not restricted to you posting your link on Facebook, Twitter, Quora, LinkedIn, etc. It is much more than that. In fact, just this morning I was addressing a session of entrepreneurs in a city adjoining Mumbai in Maharashtra, a city called Thane, and I told them that several of you seem to have set up your own websites or Facebook pages, etc., and no magic happened. You probably had an expectation that as soon as I set up a website or start a Facebook page or start tweeting about whatever it is that I do, some magic would result, but it doesn't. That is because social sharing is not just about posting your link. If you are trying to just share your link with your very small defined community of, let's say, your classmates or your relatives, social sharing could just work as you posting something on your Facebook account. But if you're trying to do something much bigger than that, because the person who's asking me the question, how do I increase the number of loyal blog users, blog readers, probably is expecting a little more than that. I think there are substantial, a well thought out strategy in terms of what is going to bring people in, why, what is going to cause them to come back. If you could answer this for your niche of the blog, you might have a slightly more evolved strategy. And there are enough a number of user resources on the internet. If you want me to throw out some names, none of which I own or have any affiliation with, this session is being organized by SocialSamosa. You could go to SocialSamosa.com. One more site that I love a lot for these kind of issues is HubSpot.com, and then there is this entire Google that you could search and land on any website of your choice. Right? For instance, I think that sending out newsletters, when people sign up on your site to receive your newsletters, is very much a social activity. Like social activity or community building is not restricted to a few social websites like Facebook and Twitter. Social activity is about interacting, networking, etc. And it can arise from a website, it can arise from your own website, it can arise entirely offline. For instance, you could go and conduct seminars or talk to people or put your blog URL on your visiting card and hand it out to people. So there are just so many ways. You could type it on your t-shirt or at the back of your automobile that you drive around. There are just so many ways of spreading the word. The idea is that you network socially, network from person to person. So am I saying every kind of marketing is social marketing? Not necessarily. There is an entire area of advertising, right, which need not necessarily be social in the way its dynamics work. But these are some of my preliminary thoughts on how you can increase your blog audience. So I'm going to try to interpret this question in the format of in restricting it to blogging. For instance, you can get likes on your Facebook page, etc. Also, however, you can get likes onto your blog posts. Now, some of you who already know me know that I have worked professionally as a search engine optimizer also. That is not my primary profession. It's more of a hobby, which sometimes pays a lot of money. But why I introduce that right now is because I'm about to share a very big secret with you. Those of you who already know the secret, and that's the cute thing about secrets, right? A lot of people tend to already know them. So those of you who already know them will probably be kicking me and telling me, why are you telling this out in public? But we have to leave a valuable Twangout, right? This Twangout has been rated as the first ever Twangout in India. So here's the deal. Until recently, by recently I mean till the year 2010 or thereabouts, maybe it could be argued 9, maybe it could be argued 2011, but somewhere around 2010, my estimate is the end of 2010. Search engine optimization, which basically is getting Google to love you and promote you high up in its search results. Search engine optimization was primarily about the nature of content, usage of keywords, developing links from other site to your site, to the main domain as well as to individual blog posts. So very rudimentarily defined, this is what search engine optimization was all about. Somewhere around the end of 2010, and if you were to watch videos by Matt Cutts, who represents Google on some of these questions, he would probably have given you a slightly different time frame. But somewhere around that period, what started happening is that Google started considering social signals. Now, Google acknowledged that they are using social signals. This became a big buzz, but we did not really know what social signals are. In fact, the question that I'm dealing with right now, such as does the number of followers, does the number of likes matter? This primarily arises, the genesis, the primary underlying driving force of this question is, does it matter whether people are socially interacting with your blog post? For example, today on your blog, you can have buttons where people can like a specific post and then this gets posted somewhere, or they can share on Twitter, etc. So does people's social activity on your blog post matter? The answer is an absolute yes. However, I said I'm going to reveal a secret, right? The secret is that usually easily measurable social outcomes, such as how many people liked a post or how many times was a post tweeted or retweeted, kind of metrics, I have found have little or no correlation to the success of your blog and to the success of your blog in search engine results, right? Now, is that a secret yet? Have I revealed the secret sauce yet? No, I have told you what is not a secret sauce. Because when Google announced and the entire online blogging world became abuzz with the fact that social signals are going to be used to rank your blog posts in Google, people started purchasing likes. They started purchasing or using robots or programs that give you fake followers and fake tweets. So overnight you would have 1,000 likes on one blog post. And the expectation was that now Google, which is a fool, well, that was the expectation. I'm not calling Google a fool. In fact, I probably, just to have uttered the sentence, will probably have to get, what is the word? I'll probably have to get a purification ritual done for calling Google a fool. But the assumption is that since Google is a fool, you can actually buy or artificially create 1,000 likes and tweets, retweets on multiple fake or genuine accounts. Google, the fool, will now come and read your blog post and see how many likes it had or tweets or retweets it had. And since the number will be fairly large, because your other foolish competitors have barely 2 likes and 1 tweet, you have 1,000 likes and 2,000 tweets and retweets because you are Mr. or Miss Spammer. So the idea was that Google will see this number and say, wow, this must be an absolutely fantastic blog post. I have got to rank it very high. Those of you, I'm shying away from saying those of us, because that would kind of have me confessing to have tried something like that. And oh, Mr. Google God, I never did that. But those of you who actually have tried something like this know that there is no positive effect, right? Some of you may now get very angry with me and say, how do you mean there's no positive effect? My entire strategy revolves around this. See, sometimes there are false positives, in the sense you may do certain worthless activity in terms of getting fake likes, comments, ignore the word comments, likes, tweets, etc. And as a consequence of that, you might end up doing some good things also. Otherwise, I find that social signals, as far as those Google is using for blogs, tend to revolve around the following. And now here is the secret sauce, that big secret that I was hyping up for a moment. You may wonder whether you can artificially create these social signals. The answer is to some extent they can be done, which is why there still is this dangerous art and science of search engine optimization. But how much time people spend reading your blog post, I think, is an extremely important social signal. Many of us do not even know how Google would ever find out how much time people spent on my blog post. Well, there are methods. We can discuss that in a more technically oriented hangout. Also, when people visited your blog post, in whatever way they reached it, once they reached there, what did they do? How many of them pressed the back arrow to go back? How many of them further clicked something here to read more things on your website? How many of them clicked something here to go to another website? These are important social signals. Google tends to look at this sort of user behavior and user engagement to decide how users are reacting to a blog post. Because come to think of it, at the end of it, Google is a machine, right? It's an algorithm. So the proof of the pudding tends to be in the eating. So Google can observe behavior of people by virtue of the analytics code being installed on the blog, by virtue of Chrome or a Google toolbar being used. So there are some mechanisms which tell Google how people are engaging with a blog or a blog post, right? And that is an extremely crucial signal. Now, what some people do, especially if you're really small, you have very few blog posts and you're making close to no money, you want to go from $1 to $10 a month. If you're at that level, at that point, I find that it is possible to simulate or fake some of these social signals. For instance, one of the social signals that I have seen to work, especially if it is sustained and of high quality, is one of people commenting on your blog, right? So I find that commenting kind of refreshes the page because it tends to give you new content on the same page, especially if the comments are printed on the same page. In fact, there was I think roughly around 2 years ago, maybe again in early 2011 or so, there was an announcement by Google that they are indeed holding the blog owner responsible for the contents of the comments on their blog. So if somebody comes and posts a comment which has a link to a very dangerous site, the like that Google would not want you to link to, maybe a porn site or a site which allows you to download pirated software or which has malware, viruses kind of thing installed, if you are allowing that to be posted in the comment section of your blog post, you as the blogger are responsible. You can't say, listen, that was in the comments and I don't post comments. So Google is definitely looking at issues related to comments, such as the quantity of comments, the quality of comments, the level of engagement. So these are some of the social signals that I think matter a lot, and that was the big secret that I have revealed today. I'm not about to reveal too many more secrets, so listen closely for any more that might come your way. Things like how many likes a post had, how many times it got tweeted or retweeted, by itself does not mean anything. Sometimes it might be about, those inputs to Google combined with some other inputs, that those inputs such as how much it was tweeted or retweeted might also become important, right? But by themselves, I don't think they are something that you can use to game the Google system. The question in its broadest sense is on what should I blog about, right? So in this specific case, the person who is asking the question is asking, should I blog about specific products? Like for instance, a lot of Indians tend to blog about cell phones. Some go beyond that. So should I blog about fast moving consumer goods? Should I blog about detergent? Should I blog about toys? Should I blog? What should I blog about such that I attract an advertiser interest? You know, what type of advertiser? It could be the AdSense advertiser, or as this questioner asked, affiliate advertiser. So what sort of content should I write? Now, before answering this question, and I'm going to answer that without dodging this one, I must point out that there is this entire section of people, if you ask this question, what do I blog about? They tend to say, blog about something you're very passionate about, right? I'm sure every one of you has heard something like this. In fact, when you have to choose your career and you ask, oh, should I become an engineer or a doctor, or what is it that I should become? Often, the smartest people are going to tell you, try to do something that you're passionate about. Now, there is absolutely no doubt that that is indeed a good answer. Having said that, I must tell you that I have had an opportunity to run a very large number of blogs in my lifetime. Even now, the number of blogs that I run is a 3-digit number. Some of my greatest success has come from blogs which are on topics which I have absolutely no understanding of, leave alone having a passion. Now, so this is a little bit of a contradiction. Am I not supposed to be blogging about what I have a passion about? The answer is yes. But before we move ahead, let's try to find out why it is that people say you should blog about what you're passionate about. The reason is that whatever are your blogging objectives could be to generate a large readership. Your blogging objective could be to be seen as an expert in that field. That's why you're blogging. Your blogging objective could be that you would like to earn money from your blog. So I've listed 3 already: being an expert, developing readership, earning money. So I've listed 3 objectives. You could come up with many more. I'm sure you're very creative, but you will find that as with any other professional venture or business venture, you will often not achieve your objectives for a certain period of time. Right? So somebody told you, hey, the best thing to blog about is Android. Review apps, try to figure out how to make the right settings on the Android, try to figure out how to crack or hack or whatever, jailbreak or unlock or do all of those things to Android, and this is in great demand. And you're like, is that so? I'm going to set up an Android blog. And by the way, the example I gave you is actually a pretty decent example, because around 2 years ago, maybe 1.5 years ago, the hottest topic to be blogging about was Android. The reason was it was much more nascent than it is now, but the number of handsets that had spread out were very large in number, right? So people wanted to do stuff with their Android phones and they were not able to do that. Official documentation was not enough, so people were having to resort to relatively enthusiastic blog owners to find out how to do the stuff that they would like to do. The problem with going with which well has the most water, namely which is the hot area to blog about, the problem with that approach tends to be that there will be times when your blogging objectives will not be met, and at that point, if you anyway hate or do not have a passion for the topic that you were blogging about, then you will not be able to sustain your interest. In fact, in several Facebook circles, Facebook call them groups, so in several Facebook groups, I am regarded as the person who's always willing to buy somebody's blog, but I pay very, very little. So, people say that try to sell your blog on flipper.com or some other marketplace, and if you're failing, if you're unable to sell your blog, there's always this guy called Ajeet Khurana who will always buy a blog, but he'll pay you very little. Let me explain that. The reason this happens is I find innumerable bloggers who set up a blog with the best of intentions, do all the things right, run it for a couple of weeks/months, find that it is not attaining any of the objectives, the golden gates to heaven that the blog was supposed to be did not come through, and now they want to get out of it. And now that they want to get out of it, they want to see how they can scrap their blog or get rid of it for the maximum money that they get now and never ever get into blogging again. This is a very, very common path. In fact, if Ankita is listening, I would recommend that she can have a special section discussing something what I would like to call the blogger's graveyard or the blog graveyard, because I find so many blogs start and then so many blogs end their lives every day. So if you find that you would start losing interest, and my recommendation is to please believe that you're going to start losing interest if your objectives are not achieved. If you're writing about something that you're passionate about, which seems like fun to have written about in the first place, you will probably sustain those periods of lull or dullness in your blogging activity and move ahead and reach the point where it once again becomes lucrative, or it starts becoming lucrative for you to continue to be a blogger. This is why people say blog about what you're passionate about. Having said that, if some of you are extremely business minded and you say, hang on, my passion is about making money from my blog, for instance, so I couldn't care less about what the topic is. I just want to know what topic will do well from the point of view of making money. Yes, that is still a valid question. Okay, because I do regard myself as a professional blogger to the extent that I bother a little more about my blogging objectives being achieved than about me writing about my blogs. And I must tell you, I already told you that I have a large number of blogs. So if somebody is wondering how I am running that, well, I don't write on almost all of them I don't write on. Okay, so either I have writers, or in some cases I'm not writing anymore, which is not a good blogging habit, but I probably procure the blog for a very low price. So don't try to follow my advice unless you want to become a purchaser of blogs, but do follow the advice that whether you are passionate about it or not, your content should reflect value. It is easier to reflect value in a topic that you are passionate about, which is why everybody tells you blog about something that you are passionate about. But I also come across many people, many fairly successful bloggers, and here I am defining success very narrowly. I'm defining it as people earning a lot of money from their blog. Okay, so that may not be the metric you want to go with, but I find that there are people who are blogging about topics such as investing in gold or getting the best interest rates on a specific kind of bank account in the UK, which probably has not too much relevance to the Indian market, etc. Such niche topics also, and they're doing very, very well. Not because they were passionate about it. They probably got into it because they did some keyword research, or they asked somebody what a good topic is, or they just stumbled upon it. The fact is that you can do well in topics that you're not passionate about if you really have the sincerity and discipline, and your content anyway reflects value. Right? Because the user does not know whether you have passion or not. If your posts sound equally good, that's good enough. So the short answer to the specific question which was asked of me, that does having product reviews help? I find that product reviews are not the best type of blog posts, but they are pretty good, especially product reviews of three types. One, the absolute latest products. So some of you who have developed the ability to be, one of the first few people to review a product anywhere in the world. So iPhone, the latest iPhone, well, iPhone is too popular, but let's say the latest HTC phone comes up, and within hours of its release, you post a blog post and you manage this every day. Right? So such kind of product reviews, over a period of time, Google does start responding favorably to your site because it knows that you are one of the originators of such content. So I see there are three types of blog posts that work well. One is that which is published very, very fast. Second type of blog post, second type of product review rather, that I have seen do very well is that which is timely in terms of seasonality. So for instance, if you are reviewing products that are specific to Christmas, specific to Diwali, Holi, Rang Panchami, Raksha Bandhan, whatever. If there are certain products which are very specific to that, so for example in Raksha Bandhan, a specific product would be a Rakhi, right? Especially if there is a specific type of Chinese electronic Rakhi that is coming to the market, maybe, I do not know. So if there is a very timely product, something which in Google's own analytics is just taking off in interest, and at that point of time you publish a product review, that also I have seen tends to do very well. So the two I have listed so far are: one, release a product review as soon as the product is available. Two, just by the way, you could release a product review much before the product is released. So for example, the iPhone and iPad kind of reviews are often much in advance, 6 to 9 months in advance of the next release. You're already seeing speculative reviews already in place of what makes a successful, what the next iPhone is going to look like, etc. So timely reviews, reviews which are seasonal, and I think reviews which reflect current trends. So for instance, I have found that suppose you are reviewing a certain app on the App Store or the Google Play Store, some Android app, etc. Now, this might often be correlated with something that's happening in the news, something where, your search, your blog posts could end up in search results which are not necessarily about that app, right? For example, recently, the Times of India, either Times of India or somebody associated with it, came up with this app called Alive, which basically brings you the latest in terms of the latest happening. So they covered Gujarat elections for Narendra Modi. Now they're covering stuff that's happening in Delhi, etc. So if by chance you were to review the Alive app itself, and I must tell you, I have not seen too many Alive app reviews, so probably I'm giving you a hint right there, it might actually turn out to be quite valuable. Okay, somebody probably heard my earlier answer where I correlated the number of blog posts you have to the amount you should be earning. For those of you tuned in late, having acknowledged that this metric system has a little bit of a problem, but at the very least, I think that a blog is not a success unless it is earning at least $1 a blog post a month. So whatever is the number of blog posts you have, that many dollars per month should be earned if you are actively interested in earning from your blog post. Some of you have secondary objectives. For instance, I know of at least one woman who was trying to establish herself as one of the cutting edge professionals in a certain very, very narrow area of medicine. And she had a PhD in that area, okay? Now this was, I can't give you too many more details because I kind of have helped her out and there's a little bit of confidentiality, but she set up a blog and she did not place any ads, so there was no opportunity for earning. So whatever is your objective has to be your objective. Don't stick to the fact that because I am using the metric of money, that becomes the most important metric. But I told you already that if earning money is what you're into, or what is getting you into blogging for, you should earn at least $1 per blog post per month. Now the real question says unique hits. Hits is a very bad term, because if on a page you have multiple elements like images and scripts and stuff, all of those constitute a hit. So one page view might end up being like 100 hits. But let's call it visitors. See, here's the deal. 10,000 unique visitors per month, for those of you who understand how this computation is done, does not equate 333 unique visitors per day. So it's not 10,000 divided by 30 to give you the unique visitors per day. On the contrary, if somebody is getting 10,000 unique visitors per month, there is an extremely good chance that they are getting something like 1,000 unique visitors per day. 1,000 multiplied by 30 becomes 30,000. So how do we correlate? The reason is that some of your unique visitors on a daily basis are going to end up coming more than once in a given month. So on a monthly basis, you don't count them more than once. So if I can distill that down to roughly 1,000 unique visitors per day, I have blogs which for 1,000 unique visitors per day earn as little as something like 40 cents, which in Indian rupees becomes something like 20 rupees, to as high as something like $18, which in Indian rupees becomes, well, you calculated it, something around 900 rupees. So 20 rupees to 900 rupees. So obviously the ratio is extremely large, right? But having said that, I feel that in those areas where advertiser interest is adequate, which means you are not in the worst chosen advertising areas. So for those areas, you should, with something like 1,000 unique visitors per day, which can be translated into 10,000 unique visitors per month, you should be earning, if nothing else, then at the very least 100 rupees per day, which means at least 3,000 rupees per month. Note, in my mind, I am being pretty conservative. So I hope you actually make yet another zero and you make 1,000 rupees per day and 30,000 rupees per month. But I think that unless you have chosen to be in a space which does not have great advertiser interest compared to the amount of inventory, that is number of blog posts available, you should be making at least this much. I must tell you, there are certain types of content, such as writing about various competitive entrance exams in India, or writing about various vacancies that arise in governmental organizations like governmental jobs, etc. These type of blog posts attract a lot of traffic, but not an equal amount of advertiser interest, right? Which is why what I like to do is I like to actually focus on the yield per effort, right? So suppose you write one blog post and I write one blog post, and you end up getting 500 visitors because you wrote about the latest vacancy that has arisen in Bharat Heavy Electricals, and I have written about a certain kind of latest jargon, demystifying from one of the more common jargon pieces in the investment space. I probably end up getting like 25 visitors for that. You end up getting 500 visitors for that, but our effort might have been similar, right? So I like to see what is your yield per effort, and to that extent I find that at the very least you should be looking at a CPM of $2, which means for 1,000 unique users, unique visitors, not 1,000 page views, but for 1,000 unique visitors, at the very least you should be earning something like $2, which means something like 100 rupees. Anything more than that, absolutely fabulous. Less than that, you are either doing something wrong or you are in an area which is not lucrative from the advertiser interest point of view. Now, I'm going to once again take this question and expand it a little, and not restrict it to video blogging, but communicating through video. So for instance, why I do that is, suppose you, let's say for instance, this session that is going on. This session gets recorded and is available to be watched on YouTube for eternity. I do not know if that's what's going to happen. The Social Samosa people will tell you. I think that might happen. But is that video blogging? We are creating a video, aren't we? So if we now place this onto YouTube, is that video blogging? In technical terms, no, it's absolutely not video blogging. But we are creating a content. We are creating a video with original content. So my feeling is that not just because YouTube has become so popular, but even otherwise, communicating by video is already a big trend, and it's going to just shoot through the roof in 2013, and in India in 2014 also, as we expect 4G networks, fourth generation telecom networks, becoming more and more popular, thereby still reducing our concerns and problems with bandwidth. Now in light of that, see, you might be aware that most of you know that India has just so many languages, right? So we usually tend to communicate in English, though there are websites in Hindi and websites in Tamil and websites in certain other languages. But most of the internet that all of us Indians tend to access tends to be in English. So are we going to leave out all of those people who are on the linguistic web, namely who are using other languages? There have been a lot of attempts to develop, code sets and protocols and fonts and display mechanisms for having web pages in languages other than English. But I think this is where video becomes a killer app. So for instance, instead of speaking to you in English, right now I could break into Hindi very easily, not require any different sort of technology, but have a pretty effective hangout in Hindi on a similar topic, right? So I think that also is extremely important for a country like India. So to more specifically respond, I think that just like roughly around 2005, 2006, the year 2005, 2006, we had people starting to write text-based blog posts, which continue to be the most popular type of blog posts. I think we are still in the early days of video blogging, despite the very large avalanche of videos which keep snowballing into sites like YouTube. I still feel that most of you, let's say the common users and common bloggers, are still not producing too many of your own videos and sharing them, though several of you might be sharing text-based content either on Facebook or on your blog or on some other site, right? So I think that we are just scratching the surface as far as video-based communication is concerned. The natural fallout is that wherever video is used, such as on video sharing sites like YouTube or video blogging for that matter, I think that the trend is going to increase. The second part of the question was, how will brands react to it? I think that's a very important question. If some of you are not getting the importance of that, it's basically because you are not in the correct space. So if I have a website and the website is about, let's say, financial products, mutual funds, insurance, etc., there'll be a large number of mutual fund advertisers, insurance advertisers who will want to place advertising on my website. However, if I am, on the contrary, a video blogger of insurance or advertising or mutual funds, then can I expect that a lot of brands would want to place advertising in my videos? At present, the answer is a kinda no. Yes, a lot of them are advertising, but they are advertising fairly tentatively. We are in the beginning of 2013. I find that very few brands have truly adopted the video advertising route, which is why even though the video advertising route is pretty engaging compared to a little text ad or a little display ad somewhere, the fact still is that we do not find that the pricing of video advertising is substantial. The reason is there isn't too much demand. In fact, the supply of inventory is going much beyond the demand, but I think that's about to change. Brands are always, especially the stronger brands, are always a little skeptical about trying different forms of media because they worry about how their brand will be treated or associated with, let's say, the wrong kind of video. But earlier, this was true about online advertising in general. Today, it is true about video advertising. It's about to change. Okay, first of all, I hear of that all the time, right? Probably because I am associated with the right circles, but I must admit that if you're comparing it to something like similar activity happening in the United States of America, then definitely we are at 1% or maybe less of that. For those of you who have not fully understood or appreciated the question, you want to become a blogger, so will somebody fund you? As in, suppose for example, you wanted to set up a restaurant. So you can imagine somebody giving you money, a business loan, or wanting to become your partner in the daily billings or revenues of your restaurant. So can similar things happen for a blog? Likewise, when you do have a blog and you want to sell it, are there enough people waiting to buy them off you? The answer is, if I were to not compare it to the US, I think that there is a lot of that activity happening in India. But if I compare it to the US, yeah, we are probably at like 1% or less of that. And the reason is that, well, this is true about all startups in India. For example, India has not yet produced that billion-dollar company, right? We haven't produced the Facebook, the Twitter, the Pinterest, so many examples I could give you. But what is happening is that over the last couple of years, some companies are reaching that number. So, you know, there could be a Flipkart, there could be a Snapdeal. So there are some websites. Now, I know this is not truly about blogs, but what is happening is that we are just a few years behind in the life cycle. And I think this is also true, to give a specific answer to the question that was asked. I think this is also true of blogs. For instance, I've already told you earlier in this Twangout that I'm always a buyer of blogs, those which are priced pretty low. But that is my strategy, right? Because I want to run hundreds of blogs. But See, ultimately, a blog is and should be seen as a business asset, especially a blog which is primarily driven professionally with the expectation that I'm going to invest so much resource. So much resource could be number of articles, number of writers, number of dollars, etc. And I'm going to make so much return. If you look at a blog as an asset, I understand a little bit of finance because I think of myself as a professional investor, but I think of blogs as one of the highest yielding asset classes. However, unlike a mutual fund or a bank deposit or shares in the equity market, etc., the requirement of you, the blog owner or the owner of this asset class called blogs, to be proficient and to be an expert in being able to run a blog, I think that expectation is very, very high. So for instance, if somebody came to me and he understands nothing except making money, and I say, okay, here's a blog, you buy it for $1,000 and you learn $100 a month, which is 10% return per month, exceptionally high. And the person gets really excited and takes my blog, and next day the server goes down or the blog is hacked or the person does not know how to run it, the investment comes down to zero. As a result, mainstream investors are definitely not attracted to blogging as an asset class, and as a consequence of that, we have not seen the emergence of a huge marketplace for blogs. I think that when bloggers such as you, who sit here in the middle of a weekday afternoon and try to learn more about blogging, when bloggers such as you are going to start developing blogs, some of you may develop blogs in the same way as you develop businesses. So you may develop blogs which run in your absence. You may develop blogs where are multiple people contributing. You may develop work processes around that, and that would be the genesis of creating a blogging system which can be acquired for tens of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. I'm going to answer this in very short. How do you measure the success as your career? Like, for example, you have a certain profession. Are you a success or are you a failure? Are you a success, a tremendous success? Are you a minor success? Are you barely a success? That's, those metrics are true about blogging also. You decide what your objective is. For instance, I was talking to somebody just yesterday, and she told me that she wants to do blogging, but solely to establish herself as an expert in the field of professional education. By professional education, I don't mean education as engineers and doctors, but education as a business. So the education industry. And so in her case, I think that she has no intention of earning any money from her blog. So we cannot evaluate her success in the form of money. But if she starts getting calls from people saying, hey, I read your blog post and I would like to connect with you, meet with you, and that leads to certain development or promotion in her career, I think that would be a good success. So you define your own parameters and your own metrics. It's very tough to say without looking at your blog, but I think that you are doing something terrible. For 5,000 views to get $0 on AdSense, I would not just say that you're doing something terrible as a blogger, you probably don't have the AdSense code posted, or you have the wrong code posted, or something stupid like that. Because yeah, you may earn less money. For example, I told you that for 5K views, you should have something like a CPM of $2, which means per 1,000 views or 1,000 users, which are two different metrics, you should have something like $2 of earnings. So you should have made a couple of bucks out of your views. I do not know what you're doing wrong, but you are doing something horribly wrong. And horribly wrong does not mean you're not writing good blog posts. That is wrong, but not horribly wrong. What you are doing wrong is that you probably have not placed the AdSense code, or if you have placed AdSense code because you can see the AdSense ad, you probably have placed the wrong code inside and somebody else is making the money off it or something ridiculous like that. Now, I do not know what misused would really be classified as, so I'm going to focus on the second part. How do I know that here I am working and creating the absolutely most fantastic content, and then as soon as I post it, somebody, either a program or an actual human being, comes up and deletes that content, or picks up that content, sorry, not deletes, but copies that content and places it on their own blog, right? Now, have I not lost out entirely? The fact is that plagiarizers, people who take your content and make it their own, might on certain occasions, and these occasions are very rare, in the eyes of Google, on certain rare occasions, they might seem like the people who actually created that content. Because see, if Google reads the same content on more than one location, it has to try to figure out who is the original, right? Now you should know, well, I guess every one of you knows that the Google search engine algorithm, the program called Google, is extremely intelligent, but what some of you do not know, that the canonicalization, I said canonicalization, that sounds like a nice jargon word right there. The canonicalization algorithm of Google is devoted to finding out which is the original piece when it finds multiple versions of the same thing. In fact, I think this is the scourge of the internet. You cannot help but have people copy your content and place it on their own sites. The fact is that it used to bother me a lot. Now, what I do is only if very reputed sites, like sites which are doing very well on Google, only very reputed sites steal my content. I write to them saying your author seems to have stolen my content, and they very happily and quickly not just remove that content, usually they ban that author also. But otherwise, if all sorts of garbage sites are scraping my web blog and thereby placing it on their site, actually I think it does not matter. You can just ignore it, because Google just does not care about these sites. Those sites will never get the credit of having created that content, and frankly nobody's going to go there and read it. Right, so this is my opinion. Of course, you can encounter some tremendously frustrating heartburn when somebody just copies your content and you're like, my God, I spent 2 days writing this outstanding treatise on the comparison between Android and iOS, and somebody just copy pasted it. It can be a bit frustrating, but I have found that there are no significant negative effects of that. I know you would want to say, hey, if the content is available elsewhere, there's a significant negative effect, but I have not found that. There are very rare situations in which that happens. I must say that the number of questions that have come in the last 10-15 minutes, revolving right from big data to other things, to right of free speech, government of India, how is it reacting, especially because of those 2 girls who got caught for posting something on Facebook. How about publishing platforms which are unique, and somebody has sent me some, what should students do before they graduate so they become good, blah, blah, blah. How can I use, I could start listing all of these questions. Questions are very interesting, and I do not know who's going to answer them, but I can hazard some guess and try to answer some of those and place them in a blog post. But it has been absolutely fantastic. I have at this point no metric, because I'm seeing the camera shooting me. I'm not seeing the YouTube page or the live stream page, because there's a 2-second gap between those. So I do not yet know how successful we have been in terms of getting you interested, but we have been terribly successful in getting a large number of great questions online. I think I have responded to barely 10% of them, but that is to be expected when you're talking only for 1 hour, 20 minutes or thereabouts. So, thank you very much. It has been absolutely fascinating. Now I'm going to pass the screen on to Ankita, who's smiling away at me and wants to tell me what a great job I have done. Right, Ankita?
Thank you very much. You were fabulous. All the questions were fabulous. I wish we could spend some more time and we could answer some more questions, but I understand that you have to move to another meeting. Perhaps you could write a blog post and answer these questions, and or maybe do a round 2 next week, perhaps, if there is more demand. Let's see. But thank you very much for this specific session. I think it was one energetic one. I'm sure you'll be excited when you go and have a look at all the tweets that were mentioned. These are only the questions. There are a bunch of tweets apart from that. So go ahead, have a look at them. And I think it was fabulous. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. My delight. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.